The moon has captivated humans since the dawn of time, and with good reason. Not only is it one of the most mysterious celestial bodies in our solar system, but it has also been essential for life to develop here on Earth. To say it is crucial to humanity's existence would be a huge understatement. It's perhaps surprising that much of what we know about our cosmic neighbor, more specifically how it came into being, is essentially guesswork, albeit educated guesswork. Accepted theory suggests that the moon came into being following a collision between Earth and a smaller planet. This planet was likely the size of Mars, and when it collided with Earth, debris from both celestial bodies was sent flying into orbit. This debris then came together over time and eventually formed the moon. However, we should remember that these theories are exactly that theory. While they are plausible, they are not proven. Many scientists, scholars, and writers have rejected the giant impact theory as it is known, arguing instead that the moon was a wandering planet that was captured by Earth and became locked into orbit. The American author and professor of biochemistry, Isaac Asimov, suggested that the moon was too big to have been captured by Earth. Moreover, the chances of the moon adopting a nearly circular orbit around Earth after such a capture are too small to make such an eventuality credible. In Asimov's opinion, the moon by rights ought not to be there. And the fact that it is there is one of those strokes of luck almost too good to accept. Owen Shapiro of the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics stated that the best explanation for the moon is observational error. Similarly, Robin Brett, a scientist at NASA, claimed that it is easier to explain the non-existence of the moon than its existence. American science writer William Roy Shelton also voiced the opinion that the moon's orbit and nature were almost too perfect to be true. He suggested that something had to have put the moon in or near its current circular pattern around Earth, and it's very unlikely that any object would simply stumble upon the right combination of factors needed to help it stay in orbit. So, if indeed something placed the moon in its current altitude, course, and speed, what was that something? Without a doubt, one of the most intriguing out-of-arm theories for the moon's existence and origins comes from authors Christopher Knight and Alan Butler. In their book, Who Built the Moon?, they put forward a compelling argument that the moon is not simply some happy accident, but was instead the result of meticulous planning undertaken so that the moon could act as an incubator for Earth, allowing life, including human life, to advance and flourish. They ultimately argue that human beings from the future intentionally created this cosmic satellite billions of years ago. Before we examine Knight and Butler's mind-blowing theory further, let's look at some of the anomalies and apparent coincidences of the moon. For example, the moon is exactly 400 times smaller than the sun, and its distance from Earth in relation to the overall distance to the sun is exactly 1/400th. These figures are exact, not approximate as we might expect if they had occurred naturally. It is these precise measurements that allow us on Earth to experience total eclipses, something that wouldn't happen if the measurements were anything other than what they are. Just for perspective, the chances of that occurring naturally are literally zillions to one. It is also worth noting that, to the best of our knowledge, no other moon acts in this way. Even the position of the moon and its precise and unique orbit make life on most of the planet possible. For example, without the moon, It is thought that the tilt of the Earth, which makes seasons possible and, in turn, widespread life across the world, would alter drastically. Christopher Knight and Alan Butler claim that these coincidences are simply too many to be naturally occurring and are, in fact, clues that have been purposely built into the moon to reveal its intelligent design. And once more, they argued that it was human beings who were responsible for that intelligent design. Many years in the future, so the moon would act as a protector of sorts for human life. They proposed that humans in the future sent highly advanced self-replicating robots for 0.6 billion years into the past. These robots then set about, quite literally, building the moon, using substances and materials from Earth, which would explain why the moon is made up of the same essential material as our planet. At some point, following replication, and possibly the arrival of a second or even a third wave of such highly advanced robots, this mass, while still at a manageable stage, was transported into space, where the construction effort would continue, perhaps similar to how the International Space Station was built. This process would follow exact specifications, with the finished result placed in a very specific orbit that would then resonate ideally with Earth and the Sun. The end result would be the catalyst for ultimately allowing life to develop. We should stress that this mission would not have taken place over years or even decades, but most likely centuries, perhaps even thousands of years. And while they are not nearly as advanced as they would seemingly be in Knight and Butler's scenario, self-replicating intelligent robots already exist in our contemporary world. As we might imagine, many would reject such outlandish theories, with some even arguing they were creationism, something Nye and Butler reject, at least in the widely understood sense. However, they do highlight some famous lines in ancient writings, including the Bible. For example, they point to the line, "Let us create man in our image." This is a line said to have been uttered by God, but as the authors ask, just who is God talking to, and who are the us? Knight and Butler suggest that this line was most likely uttered at some point in time, only it was spoken in the future by a human scientist or political leader, someone leading a mission to create the moon, billions of years in the past, ensuring that the conditions on Earth were as required for human life to develop. It would also suggest that, as well as building the moon, humans from the future put into motion the building blocks for what would become human beings. There is no doubt about the bizarrely precise dimensions of the moon, or how it relates to both Earth and the Sun, allowing life on our planet to flourish. Both are intriguing and worthy of much further study. Coincidence should not be the default answer to these bizarre numbers. After all, the coincidence we are talking about here is literally in the zillions to one. Even those open to Knight and Butler's ideas, though, highlight how this presents some kind of time travel paradox. For example, if humans didn't exist unless humans from the future traveled back to the past to create the conditions for life, then how could they exist and travel back in time in the first place? While there is admittedly no solid answer to this, perhaps the ancient Ouroboros symbol is worth highlighting here, a depiction of a snake eating its own tail. This is a symbol of infinity and the circle of life. Might it be that humanity is within its own Ouroboros-style circle, one that requires the constant loop of traveling back to the past to allow our own existence to unfold in the future? If Knight and Butler are right, and the moon is the product of intelligent human design, with messages incorporated into its dimensions and the equations of its orbit alerting us to this, then it could be imperative that these messages are seized upon and understood, in order that humans in the future can use them to calculate and design the moon in the past, and so complete the apparent life circle of humanity. One thing is for certain: the moon will continue to fascinate humanity for as long as it remains in Earth's skies. And it will continue to serve as one of the most important protectors of life on this planet. We should perhaps end with the ancient Egyptian proverb that the kingdom of God is within you, and whosoever shall know himself shall find it. Might it be that God is indeed humanity as a whole or on Creator's end, that, should we discover such truths and gain a greater understanding of our collective selves, the universe around us will become known to us,